Hey everyone, Pat Beliveau here, saying, hey, what's up? How's isolation going? And I've been asked to do a video podcast for the Jazz YYC festival that's happening. And before I start, I want to give a shout out to Cody Hutchinson and also all the folks at Jazz YYC for contacting me to do this. I'm very happy to pass along some information to you. Now, this particular podcast, out of a whole bunch of topics that I could have chosen, educational topics, the one that I chose was the idea of jam and sitting in etiquette and preparedness, shall we say. And I'm going to kind of say my piece and hammer my point home by using myself as an example. Back at a time, late high school and early university, where that kind of concept was very pertinent to what I was doing because I was sitting in a lot and I was going to jams and trying to network and meet people. So that's what I spent most of my time doing, my spare time outside of studies. So anyway, I've had many mentors over the years, and they've all been great. And one in particular who used to live here was a trumpeter by the name of Greg Bush. Now he teaches at Vancouver Island University in Nanaimo out on Vancouver Island. And he hasn't lived in Calgary for a long time, but he was around when I was in high school and into university. And while doing a clinic at my old alma mater high school, Central Memorial High School, yay Rams, um, he invited me to come and sit in his pro big band, of which I was like, oh yeah, I'm all over that. Of course, it was a frightening experience at first because I'm surrounded by people who are definitely better than me, without question. But of course, that made me rise to the occasion and step up my game to make me better. So it was a perfect thing for me to happen to me at that time. One of the things that happened while playing in Greg's band at a rehearsal, and I was playing bari sax in the band at the time. At a rehearsal, Greg pulls out his arrangement of an old standard called There Will Never Be Another You. I open up the chart and I notice there's a 96 bar bari sax solo. So, of course, I die 1,000 deaths sitting in my chair, freaking out, going, I don't know what to do with this. So I called him over and I said, I don't know what these chord symbols mean. I don't know what this stuff is. You got to help me with this. You got to pass this solo. I can't do this. So he passed the solo along to our second tenor player, who was Dave Edgar, who I know a lot of you will know. But Greg said to me, you're going to do this. You're going to learn how to do this. I said, fine, but you got to help me. So he proceeded to get me all kinds of resources, the Aebersold play along, a bunch of different recordings with the song on it. And the album that was the concept for his arrangement, which was a Jerry Mulligan, Chet Baker record, hence the reason there was a 96 bar bari solo. So I just woodshedded that chart and played through this. I ripped off some of this solo stuff and went through the Aebersold over and over and over again and took lessons with him to go through this song and to get an idea of the chords and the progression and how they work and so on and so forth. So I got to the point where I was really getting to know that song well. It was the first standard I ever really learned, other than a blues. Like I knew, B flat and F and that kind of blues progressions, basic things, right, that I felt really comfortable with. So, fast forward a little bit, Greg is playing in quartet down at the old club. I bet a lot of you, my vintage and older, will remember Marty's, just east of the intersection of 17th Avenue and 4th Street Southwest. Well, he was playing there with a quartet and invited me to come down and play. So here's the sitting in thing, and this also applies to jams too. Greg knew that I knew two things well. B-flat blues, which was a couple of heads or three heads that I knew, and There Will Never Be Another You. So he said, come on down, bring your horn, and sit in. I said, okay, sure. So I popped down to Marty's the night that he was playing, or one of the nights he was playing. I walk in, I sit down, there's still play a few tunes, and then he gets on the mic and invites me up and says, we have an up-and-coming saxophone player, baritone saxophonist, to come up and play some tunes with us, and please welcome Pat Beliveau to the stage. So I will go up. I think I was 18 or 19 at this point. So I go up to the stage, and he knows, and I know that I know two things: the B flat blues and There Will Never Be Another You. So he says to me, and I knew him and I think one other guy out of the four. I didn't know the other two. I said, for the life of me, I can't remember who they were. But he says, what do you want to play first? And I went, how about we just play a B flat blues just so I can get warmed up and, and all that stuff, just kind of open up on it. He's like, oh, that's a great idea. So we chose a head, one of the two or three that I knew, and we played the B flat blues. It went very well. Everything went great. I felt really good about it. And he said, hey, well, while you're up here, why don't you play one more? And I said, okay. He said, well, what do you want to play? And I was kind of playing along going, wow, so many choices. God, I don't even know what to, so many. How about There Will Never Be Another You in E flat? And he said, great choice. Let's do that. Okay, guys. There Will Never Be Another You in E flat. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then he counted it off. We played it. I soloed on it. It went very well. It sounded great. And at the end, I was really happy about how it all went. Guess what I did next? I thanked the guys. I put my horn away and I sat down. Why? Because I really only knew those two things really well. Okay, so this is my point now. I have hosted enough jams and been present at enough jams where I've seen students and amateur adults come in, and they'll come up and they'll play a couple of tunes and they will sound great on them because they're tunes that they know. But then the mistake they make is to stay up there and play on songs that they don't know well or don't know at all. I'm not sure why you do that. Fake book or no fake book. Just because a fake book is there doesn't mean you know how to navigate those changes. So my point here is, don't go to a jam or sit in with somebody not knowing anything. You need to know some of the repertoire. And that's what you should count on, stick with, and play on. Okay? So many times I've died 1,000 deaths for other people because they're overstepping their boundaries and it's not working. Why you wouldn't want to put your best foot forward at all times? I have no idea. Until such a time where you can really feel you can navigate through a set of changes, even if they're ones that you're not as familiar with or completely random and you don't know, but at least you have an idea of how progressions move and how the harmonies work and being able to play melodically through, situations like that. There's no point in chancing it. Become familiar with the repertoire. If you go to a jam or sitting in knowing two tunes like I did at Marty's, that's great. Then next time it happens, come back with 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 that you know and play the ones that you know and continue to build up your repertoire of songs. And that way you're always putting your best foot forward. You never know who's in the audience. I've scored many gigs because of people who have heard me in the audience. And because I put my best foot forward, right? And that's not just for people in the audience. It's also for your peers, the guys that you're playing with. But mainly it's about you sounding good and putting your best foot forward at all times. Why you wouldn't want to do that, I have no idea. So please be careful with that. Stick to the repertoire that you know and that you can play or sing or whatever you're doing really, really well. And then come back with more learned. And then next time come back with more learned. And then come back with more learned. That way it's always a good experience. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm coming up to 9 minutes here, so I'm going to shut up. But anyway, that's a real important thing to me. And because I know how awkward it can feel when something like that happens. So please don't put yourself in that situation, right? Play the stuff that you know and that you know well. Okay? That way you're always looking and sounding good. Okay, makes sense? Right on. Thanks everyone for your time. Take care. Have a great festival. Cheers.